Welcome to Red Light Radio, a series on contemporary sexuality created by and for workers in the sex industry. This is PJ Rose for the Red Light Radio Collective, inviting you to stay tuned for the rare radio opportunity to consort with prostitutes, and for the rarer opportunity, on air or off, to enjoy that relationship free of charge. Whatever your personal thoughts or feelings about prostitution, the fact is, no law anywhere at any time has succeeded in stopping prostitution. Prostitution happens, and we're here to talk about how. Although Red Light Radio is created with the interests and needs of the sex industry professional in mind, we also welcome the curious or enthusiastic layperson. But if frank talk about sexualities, body parts, or bodily functions offends you, please tune out now.
I think gardening is probably even more popular than prostitution. Red Light Radio.
Red Light Radio is on the air. Welcome. On this program, number 3 in our 13-week series, we'll be discarding some well-known lies and retrieving some little-known truths. So stay tuned to hear sex worker responses to images in Band of Gold, the TV series which has kept many of us in suspense for 6 weeks as an unknown killer slits the throats of streetwalkers. We'll also talk with Carol, an Adelaide prostitute and an IDU, intravenous drug user, about the facts of drug use in her life. And on Hooker Hygiene, we'll hear how stress can affect the immune system. And Dr. Trustulust will also suggest some handy hints for stress management during this holiday and Vice Squad raid season. Come on, come on. And various members of the Red Light Radio Collective will drop by to say hello.
Hello, I'm Janie. I'm a private worker. 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
And we'll hear some limericks, recorded by sex industry workers who attended S.A. Sin's holiday luncheon last week.
Said a wicked old madam named Belle, whom a preacher was threatening with hell. I have no regrets, no doubts, and no debts. If I haven't done good, I've done well.
Thanks to Katrina for retrieving those limericks from the internet.
They say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you love me, and that's a fact. And then you left me, said you felt trapped. Well, some things you can't explain away, but the heart aches with me till this day. Did you stand by me? No, not at all. Did you stand by me? No way.
That's Annie Lennox singing Train in Vain from her latest CD, Medusa. Let's start this week's mail and with a postcard that arrived at 5UV after last week's Red Light Radio broadcast number 2. Now, the sender took a lot of care in preparing this personalized postcard, and I'll read the message to you after I describe the picture side. You may have seen this one on a souvenir rack anywhere in the city. The page, the postcard, is all black, just blackness. Picture it. Now, the yellow caption at the bottom reads, Adelaide by night. Great joke. To the top of this gentle visual joke, the sender has stapled a silhouetted hanging light bulb painted red. So the only source of illumination in the darkened town is the red light. On the red light bulb are handwritten symbols, 5UV. Very stylish. The message on the other side is hand-printed in blue ballpoint pen, and it reads, To the Brains Trust, University of Trollops, no knicker-winkers, brains only on paper, not in the head. To stop AIDS, keep your legs crossed, and men, keep sitting on your gong goo. The message is signed, Add Enough Crap. Add Enough is spelled capital A, capital D, capital E, capital N-U-F. Now, I can't give you a scientific reason, but every member of the Red Light Radio Collective senses that this note is from a male listener. Crap is pretty direct and tells us unequivocally that our correspondent does not like what we're putting to air. We also tried to decipher euphemisms within the message itself. For example, in the phrase, no knicker-winkers, we reckon our writers using winkers as the feminine form of wankers, but no one we've spoken to has ever heard of a gong-goo. If you can enlighten us on what we assume is a euphemism for the male member, give us a call at 5UV on 303-5000. Whatever a gong-goo is, it's the position of Red Light Radio that any sexual choice is absolutely okay, as long as that choice is negotiated with and agreed to by everyone involved, and as long as that choice is carried out safely. So we want to support our postcard writer's choice. Personal celibacy is indeed a foolproof method of safe sex. By the way, there's also a P.S. on the postcard, and it's an important one. The postscript asks, who's looking after our children? Now, that's a question many South Australians are asking themselves as the state education health budgets are cut continually. In fact, 70% of women working in the sex industry are doing so in order to look after the children.
You didn't stand by me, no, not at all. You didn't stand by me, no way. You didn't stand by me, no, not at all. You didn't stand by me, no way. You must explain why this must be. A job, but it don't pay. I need no clothes, I need somewhere to stay. But without all these things I can do, without your love, I won't make it through. Without your love, I won't make it through. But you don't understand my point of view. I suppose there's nothing didn't stand by me, no, not at all. You didn't stand by me, no way. You didn't stand by me, no, not at all. You didn't stand by me, no way. You must explain why this must be. Me, no way. Did you stand by me? No, not at all. Did you stand by me? No way. Did you stand by me? No, not at all.
Now, we're still talking about Band of Gold here, and in Annie Lennox's lyrics, did you stand by me? No, not at all, may well have been said by Gina to her husband Steve. You may remember Gina kicked Steve out of the house. He'd been unemployed for the last 2 years of their 7-year marriage, and he hit her once too often. Now a sole parent, Gina is the first character we see in Band of Gold, and to her 3-year-old daughter, while trying to make the child's shoes fit, she mutters the first lines of the entire series. "You need a new pair of shoes, darlin'." Now, Gina's passion to make a decent living for herself and her 3 daughters is what motivates her to become a prostitute. And she meets her mentor, Carol, in the schoolyard. Carol's the mother of a schoolmate of Gina's older daughter, and Gina notices Carol is a working girl who's doing very nicely. So you remember our listener's question who sent the postcard, who's looking after the children? And children are quite central in Band of Gold, whether they're the biological children of the workers or whether they're 15-year-old Tracy, whom the women working on the lane try to protect from her hoon and from the unknown killer. Tracy has run away from her wealthy biological family because when she told her mother that her father had been paying her for sex since she was 11, the father denied it, and the mother believed him because she didn't want to, quote, destroy the family. To help herself not notice, the mother took to drinking, and Tracy took to the streets. So Band of Gold gives us one answer to our postcard writer's question about child minding, because in Band of Gold it's the prostitutes and the prostitutes' mothers who are looking after the children, their own and other people's. When we have our phone lines open on Christmas night, next Monday night it is, we hope that you'll call with questions or comments about Band of Gold. Meanwhile, here's why 5AD's Bob Byrne thinks Band of Gold is much more truthful than Red Light Radio.
You know, there is a new program on Tuesday night on one of the commercial stations. I think it's on Channel 7. It's called Band of Gold. Have you seen that? Well, it's about prostitutes. It's about prostitutes and about prostitution. I think it shows the real side of prostitution. It's a very ugly, violent kind of profession at times, isn't it? Yes, it is. Who's next? Yes, Michael?
Yeah, hi, Bob. First-time caller. Love your show. I just was thinking that when you said the Sex Industry Network, that's an acronym for SIN.
Yes.
Sounds like that's what they're promoting.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to understand, what they hope to achieve with this sort of thing. But the thing that concerns me, of course, is once again, it's a recognition. If you have a valid radio program about something, it's a recognition that something should be legalized or decriminalized. I think, as I said to the girl that I was talking to there, what was her name, that if you want to really find out, these people keep painting prostitution as some kind of glamour profession. It's kind of like a lot of people think of prostitution. They think of what's her name, Julia Roberts from that movie where she was supposed to be a prostitute. If you want to see what prostitution is really like, the kind of things that those women have to put up with, the kind of women they really are, tune in and watch this Band of Gold on a Tuesday night. I've watched it a couple of weeks now, and the women are old, they're frumpy, they're all panicking because they're past their prime. They have to put up with the weirdest, craziest guys. I mean, and of course, they could be murdered at any time.
Don't want no short dick, man. 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 No short dick, man. What in the world is that fucking thing? You need some fucking tweezers to put that little thing away? That has got to be the smallest dick I have ever seen in my whole life. Get the fuck out of here. Eeny weeny, teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick, man. Don't want. Eeny weeny, teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick, man.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm a private escort worker in Adelaide. I'd just like to say hello to all my fellow workers tonight. I hope that you're making lots of money and being safe out there. You'll be hearing more from me, so be good.
will take another man. Gone, gone, the damage done. Song because I love the man. I know that some of you don't understand. Milk blood to keep from running out. I've seen the needle and the damage done, a little part of it in everyone, but every junkie's like a setting sun.
Neil Young singing The Needle and the Damage Done from his Harvest album. Carol chose that music when she came in earlier this week to chat with Jenny about IDU and prostitution. IDU, the initials, stand for intravenous drug use, and Carol is an ID user as well as a prostitute. Jenny, the peer educator at SA Sin, speaks first about stereotypes that plague the sex industry.
Prostitution is such a highly stigmatised line of work, and then a prostitute who also happens to be an IV drug user is doubly stigmatised, and it's the aspect of the industry that's often played up in the media. You know, the out of control junkie who works on the streets. You know, for a profession that's trying to sort of gain some sort of credibility as a line of work, as a legitimate way of earning money. It seems to me that the sex industry continually comes up against the stereotype of itself. You know, the image in popular culture of you know, women in doorways. Under red lights and mini skirts and
being held prisoner by a pimp.
That's right, and American film in particular, you know, just continues to perpetuate that image, and workers within the industry who feel like, you know, Mrs. Normal Jane Citizen. You know, continually battle against that image that's presented of themselves in their line of work and what they know to be true.
Is there also prejudice within the industry itself against IV drug users?
Oh, most definitely. And Carol, I'm sure, would have much better insight into that.
There is the double stigma, and it's, funnily enough, among my user friends, I wouldn't admit that I was a sex worker, and among the sex worker community, I won't admit that I'm a user. So you're sort of stuck in the middle.
So tell us how you managed not to become a victim to drugs.
I don't believe in that victim mythology. If I want to use every day, I don't think that's any different to the person that has a glass of wine with their meal at the end of the day, or the person that smokes 25 cigarettes. There's this big fear of IV drug use, especially heroin, I think. And if people can afford to use it and it's not destroying their lives, I don't see anything wrong with that.
So you're suggesting then that just as alcohol can be used in moderation but gets some people, for whatever chemical reasons in their own body, addicted to it, so the same is true with IV drugs, with heroin?
Yeah, although heroin is a lot more addictive.
When did you first use?
I've been using 15 years.
And how old are you now?
32.
And were you ever tempted to become enslaved to the drug?
I have been off and on. I'm on methadone at the moment, so I guess I'm enslaved to a state-supplied narcotic. which is much harder to get off than heroin.
Maybe just to explain what methadone is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't really understand what it is and how you get it.
I think the myth out there is that you get put on methadone and you go on a withdrawal program, and after 21 days or whatever, you get a reduced dose and you end up with nothing. I've been on methadone for 5 years. It's a maintenance thing. It stops you hanging out. It's like heroin but without the buzz. So it's that's what the government likes to do, I guess.
So how does the methadone come, Carol? How do you go about getting methadone?
If someone's got a problem, or if they see that they've got a problem and they do want to stop using, I would suggest that they phone up Warranilla and make an appointment to see a counsellor, and then they will get put on a dose that is a specific dose to the amount of heroin that they're using daily.
So is it a choiceful thing? Did you enter the program choicefully?
Not really. I was one of these people that's been on in the media a bit lately about Darwin not having a methadone program. I was actually sent down to Adelaide to get put on methadone because there was no methadone in Darwin.
How long ago was that?
That was 1989.
So it's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
And how do you take methadone?
It's taken orally once a day in liquid form.
And what about needles? Are there clean needle programs in Adelaide?
There's quite a few needle exchanges in Adelaide. I've got a bit of a gripe at the moment with the brothel owners that won't allow clean syringes on premises, which is not stopping the women from using. It's just meaning that they're going to be using or sharing needles.
Does that mean they won't allow any syringes on premises?
They won't allow any syringes on premises.
So how do you go about finding a needle exchange in Adelaide?
You can look for the sign on the window, which is a double arrow, black and white, facing in different directions. You could get in touch with Survive at the AIDS Council. They actually deliver syringes. If you can't get out to them, they will deliver, and they're free. You can also buy them in fit packs from chemists.
Were you a worker, Carol, before you were an IV drug user?
No, I wasn't, but I didn't become a worker because of being an IV drug user.
That's a real sort of myth that needs exploring, I think, Carol, that whole sort of...
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have the perception that if you're an IV drug user, you've got an outrageously expensive habit to support, and therefore sex work is the usual way of women supporting a habit. And do you agree that that's a commonly held myth?
It's a myth. Yeah, it's quite commonly held too. There's a lot of users out there that with really big habits that wouldn't dream of sex work. I think you can either do sex work or you can't. It's really got nothing to do with how much you need the money.
But that mythology around that hanging out and needing the money and sex work as an easy option is just so pervasive.
Yeah.
A myth that...
That's right. That thing about if you're hanging out, you'll do anything for the money, and that's where the myth comes in. That IDUs are, they don't use condoms. They'll undercut. They'll do anything for the money.
Well, that myth is perpetuated within the industry, isn't it? I mean, even as a worker for many years myself, I mean, I can attest to those types of feelings being expressed by workers that, if it's quiet, workers will sort of say that, they're probably all going around the corner where all the junkies work and where they don't use condoms and they get it for half the price and stuff like that. Do you agree, Carol, that there's a fair bit of scapegoating in the industry towards...
Yeah, there's a lot of scapegoating in the industry, and I think that IDUs are just the scapegoat in the industry. I can't think of any other class of worker that gets put down on so much.
So, I mean, a recent study in the South Australian sex industry estimated that, you know, there was around, say about 25% of the South Australian sex industry, or in that particular sample, that were IV drug users. Is that your experience of the industry, Carol?
That's not my experience. I do know quite a few workers that use, but that's because that's my social circle. I've always felt the outsider. You get a group of sex workers together, and just listening to the conversation, you realise that the IDUs are the minority.
So you think 25% is
too high?
Is too high, yeah. And I imagine too that there's lots of sex workers out there that do use, that don't fit even the industry stereotype of a junkie working in the industry, and
That's right.
That's an out of control, generally younger type of woman who's just not handling the drugs or the sex work. You know, perhaps you can elaborate that a bit on that, Carol. The users that don't fit those stereotypes. I mean, and there must be lots of workers out there that their co-workers don't even suspect.
With the stigma that goes with being an IDU and a sex worker, why is someone going to disclose if they're listening to their co-workers bag IDUs? Why would they want to disclose?
That's right.
They've got no reason to. They've got nothing to gain, and yet, you know, the other workers have probably got a lot to gain in education and just listening, and I don't know.
You reckon the prejudice against IV drug users is a kind of a moral prejudice, the way the prejudice against prostitution is a moral prejudice?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a moral judgment on the part of people who hold those sorts of views. That and sometimes perhaps it's the prejudice that workers within the industry hold. I mean, sometimes I wonder whether it's some sort of reaction to their own marginalisation as being workers, being sex workers and prostitutes. Perhaps it's a reaction to that. If you can then find somebody that's even lower down the pecking order than yourself, I mean, it can often make you feel a bit better about yourself. So if you're a prostitute but you're not a junkie, you know, I just imagine
you're still in control of your life. Then.
That's right. So, and I mean, if you can pity or deride those workers that perhaps work in a different way to you. I mean, the same thing perhaps even applies to street workers. I mean, lots of parlour workers would just thumb their nose at ever working on the street, because it's equated with a desperate way of working and a less safe way of working, and you know, so there's even sort of hierarchies around the modus operandi of sex work, and combining that with IV drug use, and you can see quite clearly that even sex workers themselves aren't you know, totally sort of held together as a homogenous type of group.
They're as different as any other professional group of people, I suspect. I hear you suggesting then, Carol, that just as with alcohol or nicotine or other substances, there is use and abuse.
What's abuse?
I suppose we have the image of the you know, in New York, you'd have the image of the Skid Row bum, you know, the alcoholic wino in the park living under newspapers. So, but we wouldn't necessarily, if that person used to be a banker, nobody leaps to the conclusion that all people who work in banks are winos. as people are willing to leap to the conclusion that all prostitutes perhaps are IV drug users, or all IV drug users are
addicted,
derelict and addicted.
Yeah.
So the use of heroin does not equal addiction to heroin. I think that's something that people don't commonly understand. Is that accurate?
Oh, it is a highly addictive drug. I think well, perhaps my views are different than other people. I think the majority of people that would try it on a regular basis at some stage would become addicted. But I'd see that morally, if that's their choice, what's wrong with that? I mean, people are addicted to alcohol and cigarettes and caffeine. It's just this big fear of heroin. And there are people out there that can use. And when we're talking about IDUs too, I mean, there's people that might have some, hit up some ecstasy once every couple of weeks, or then there's the speed users as well. Yeah.
Well, they're certainly growing groups too, aren't they, in terms of IV drug use, the recreational type of speed users and that type of thing. Is that right, Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think speed is something that it's easier to use recreationally. Yeah.
And it's not quite so addictive, is it? In a physical sense?
Physically, no.
No, mentally, but not physically.
I mean, I know people that spend more on grass than other people that use heroin. There's people that need to smoke a bag of grass every day now. They're not physically addicted, but they need to have their grass, and no one's up in arms about that.
So you think it's something about...
I'm getting a bit defensive here.
No, I think the issue is also legalization, isn't it? Because where it becomes someone else's problem, when people become addicted and desperate to get the money to get any drug, is when people begin to break into other people's houses.
Yeah,
and then it becomes a different kind of problem for strangers.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, though, of criminalization, of criminalizing the use, isn't it? Because if it weren't illegal, although it may be highly taxed, as cigarettes are getting taxed.
Yeah. And what's happening is, over the last decade or so, the price has gone up astronomically. So people are paying a lot more for a smaller amount.
That's a smack of heroin.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's gone up a lot.
So, for example, what does it cost? What would it cost?
Well, it depends how much you use. If you're buying small amounts, most would come in $50 packets. Unless people want to buy weights and half weights, but the casual user would probably just buy $50 packets.
And that, obviously, depending on how often they wanted to use it, that would be worth one hit.
Yeah.
That's another myth too, isn't it, Carol, about how people function when they're using.
Yeah.
And
I mean, your morals don't fly out the window just because you've had a taste.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because when John Belushi died, and when River Phoenix died, and when other male stars get...
Jason Donovan.
He also was for a while flirting seriously with a variety of drugs, but everybody sees that as boys having fun, right? Nobody suddenly judges the acting profession as rife with potential moral problems. And it does seem different that those are all young men. Just like when people have those assumptions about sexuality, the old myth that young men who go out and fuck around a lot are studs, and young women who do, of course, are sluts. That same kind of gender prejudice carries over into drug use.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I imagine that people perceive a woman when she's stoned or whatever on whatever drug. Perhaps there's that idea then that morals do fly out the window, and that she's going to open her legs for anyone or do anything because she either needs that money to buy the drugs or B, she's already on the drugs and therefore, you know, her faculties are somehow disorientated. And yeah, I think people do find that a little bit more uncomfortable.
Especially if she's a mother. That's a real no-no. You know, if you're a mother and a user, you can't be a good mother. I find that the hardest thing to cope with about other people's opinions. The fact that I'm a mother, and I'm a very good mother. But how can I be if I'm a user?
And a hooker to boot.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, junkie whore. What lower can you be?
That's right. Well, that's, you know, that double stigma again.
I think, though, there are perhaps some health problems that might come up with using.
Like?
Though, not eating as well as you could. And a lot of users have got the Hep C virus as well, so they need to take extra care of themselves, look after their liver, you know, try not to drink alcohol.
What about the Hep C virus in terms of sex work? I mean, here comes another myth, doesn't it, Carol, that somehow the Hep C virus, being Hep C positive, is akin to other forms of hepatitis, like hepatitis B, and that there's some sort of
it's not sexually transmitted.
Any sex workers, you know, as long as they're practicing safe sex, there's no risk of transmission.
Any workers out there who are users could find comfort and companionship at SASIN?
Sure.
I mean, if they're feeling isolated and under this double stigma that you're talking about?
Sure. I mean, we're supportive of all sex workers.
With no judgment.
That's right. And it might be timely to, to introduce Carol as our contact person at SIN for workers in the industry.
And the number at SASIN is 362-5775. And Carol, what do you do in your job at SASIN?
I work there in a volunteer capacity. I'm on the editorial committee of the magazine that we put out once every 3 months.
Carol's also interested in starting up a support group for IDUs that are also sex workers. And but you know, anybody can utilise her as a resource person, you know, for up-to-date information and you know, support and advocacy, and obviously Carol's got you know, a good understanding of the issues around sex work and IV drug use. So,
and a knowledge of all the resources in South Australia.
Yeah.
That was Ammonia and their take on drugs from their CD Mint 400, preceded by Carol and Jenny discussing IDU, intravenous drug use.
Hi, I'm Star. I'm a private transsexual worker, and I'd like to say to all my working colleagues, be good, if not be good at it.
Said a busy young whore named Miss Randalls, men by the dozen I handles. When I get busy, my cunt gets all jizzy and runs down my legs like wax candles. Well, I use lubricant, you know, to get that effect, so...
Hi, Jenny from SIN, the Sex Industry Network office at the AIDS Council. Just to remind all the workers out there that we'll be open in the SIN office on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, between Christmas and New Year. So you can pick up your condoms and lube and your other safe sex supplies from our safe sex shop. And in the meantime, I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Hi, I'm Mary, author of Snatches in Between. I'm trying to get some more snatches for you next week.
How bad could it be if you amuse yourself with me? How bad could it be? Sexuality.
The answer is pretty bad if you catch something you can't give back. Hello, darlings. I'm Dr. Trustia Lust, Director of Sexual Services at Traviata TAFE, bringing you hooker hygiene on Red Light Radio. G'day, PJ.
And welcome, Dr. Lust.
And welcome, everybody, to the season of stress.
Oh, don't remind me.
But I have to remind you, PJ, because depression, suicides and marriage breakdowns are statistically higher during the so-called silly season.
Ooh.
And it's essential that our lads and lasses in the sex industry be prepared.
More prepared than anyone else.
I reckon. Of course, sex workers are vulnerable to the same ups and downs, the same stresses that the rest of us are, but sex workers have the added responsibility and dangers of dealing in bodily fluids. The point being, PJ, stress is very bad for the immune systems.
I didn't know that. Well, how does stress affect the immune system?
Excessive stress causes imbalances, like in blood sugar levels and in the alkaline and acid levels in the body. And those imbalances affect the smooth running of all your body systems.
Well, what are acid and alkaline levels exactly?
All fluids are either acid or alkaline. Acid being like vinegar, alkaline being like salt.
Right.
Pure water is neutral.
Okay.
In a balanced body, our fluids are very slightly acid, like yogurt.
Acidophilus.
That's right. So if your immune system is in peak condition...
Meaning balanced.
If your immune system is balanced, you can fight off almost all infections. Think of your body as a great river red gum, Eucalyptus camaldulensis. The healthy living tree is fungus-free, but when it starts to die back, that's when funguses can grow. Funguses don't grow on a live, healthy tree or in a live, balanced body. Any imbalance in your body allows fungus to grow in your warm, wet body zones.
Are you saying, Dr. Lust, that stress alone can create a fungal infection?
In a vagina, PJ, or on a penis, or in a mouth, or eyes, or rectum, even without ever contacting anyone else's body.
Wow, how does that happen?
Your body's natural slight acid level keeps fungal infections in check, but change that level and funguses can grow, and quickly too. And once you've got a fungal infection, it's much easier to catch something else, which is even harder to fight off because your immune system's already stressed fighting the fungus.
So once you're out of balance, it's a vicious cycle.
Exactly. And when you're stressed, your heart rate increases and your own body releases toxic substances into your own bloodstream.
Ooh, what a headache.
And a doozy of a headache is what Charlene had. Charlene is one of our commercial arts students at Traviata TAFE. She came to see me for a checkup last week because she had a burning sensation when she passed water.
Is that a common symptom?
Could mean the clap. That is gonorrhea. So we did some tests. Charlene was listless and very irritable. She said the kids were driving her mad and she was snarling at them for no good reason.
Well, we've all done that.
But a mum knows when she's out of sorts. Most sex workers are mums. They know what I mean. Anyway, we did the tests and found she had a nasty kidney infection, Well, that relieved her stress about maybe having an STD. I gave her antibiotics, and she's right as rain now.
Was she stressed in other ways?
There's more to an infection than one feral bacteria. It turned out that she'd been busted by the Vice Squad 3 times in 2 weeks. She's got 3 kids all on her own. Their father's a gambling man and left Adelaide to avoid his debts. And Charlene's paying them too. And she's already doing community service for receiving money in a brothel a couple of months ago.
That's stress.
Charlene says there are lots of working women like her, trying to juggle work, kids, bills, study, police harassment, management, not to mention clients.
I reckon a saint would be stressed in those circumstances. So what else could Charlene do to relieve her stress?
Well, as well as the antibiotic, I advise Charlene to take vitamin C and zinc.
Why?
Well, vitamin C and zinc are essential in all of us for the production of white corpuscles in our bone marrow. And those white corpuscles are the real little battlers against any infections that enter the body. So Charlene's working to keep her immune system in good order with zinc and vitamin C and with rest and good food, like whole grains and salads, good for the kids too. And she's going to minimise her stress level by noticing when she's angry or tired or sad. And she's thinking about learning to meditate to help her relax. Because stress is often due to unresolved emotions, PJ, like when you get angry and never say anything, or when you get sad or frightened and you don't release the tension by crying. If you let that tension build up in your body, you get more stressed. Of course, the irony is that Charlene's clients are having their stress relieved while she has all the hassle.
So how can sex workers make their job less stressful?
As always, by negotiating clearly with the client, by using plenty of lube, and by not fighting the Vice Squad.
How do you not fight the Vice Squad?
Well, they're called Operation Patriot here in South Australia, PJ, and Charlene always gives the officers a bit of a lip, probably to relieve her stress. But I made her promise she wouldn't be cheeky to them anymore. She's going to concentrate on her own deep breathing to calm herself down. There's no point in smart-assing the coppers, and legally, all you need to do is tell them your name, address and date of birth, and that will save you a lot of stress later on. Because remember, there's no such thing as off the record with a police officer, so never, no matter what you're feeling, say more than that's legally required. Your name, address and date of birth.
So I shouldn't try to talk my way out of it?
No sense in trying till there's prostitution law reform in South Australia. And don't go thinking tranquilizers and other pills relieve stress. You might feel better for the moment, but drugs do not change the stress levels inside the body. Do your immune system a favour this Christmas. Keep those stress levels down. Next week, I'll be live online for Christmas. Phone in with any queries and I'll put you right.
Thanks and happy holidays, Dr. Lust.
Thanks.
Just like birds of a feather, I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family. Hey, I got all my sisters with me.
On Red Light Radio, Dr. Trust Your Lust dedicated that Sister Sledge song to her sisters. and we are family too in the studio. I'm PJ Rose, here with members of the Red Light Radio Collective.